Are you looking for a new but fun tropical rum cocktail to add to your repertoire? Well, today's video might be the one for you. The Rum Runner is one of my all-time favourite rum cocktails, and yet it's often overlooked. It barely gets a mention in any cocktail books. You rarely ever see it online. In fact, the first time I ever saw it was a couple of years ago when I got my good friend Georgie's book and saw a Rum Runner recipe listed in there. Now, I want to change that. I want the Rum Runner to be one of your automatic first choices because I really do think it's that good. And I just want it to be at the forefront of your mind the next time you're thinking of what cocktails you could make. Now, maybe the reason this cocktail is overlooked might be down to the rum that you use. I've since making it from Georgie's book in there, I've now found the original recipe, which is very different to this in Beach Bum Berry's remix book. And the rum that it calls for in there is an overproof rum, a 151 rum. So maybe it's down to that. Maybe it's down to the method that's used to make this cocktail, which is in this book. And it's a frozen slush puppy style of cocktail, which again is very different to what's in Georgie's book. So today, with the hope of maybe trying to create mass market appeal for this cocktail, the Rum Runner, I'm going to have a few different experiments. I'm going to be playing with the method used to make this cocktail. I'm going to be playing with the banana liqueur because I have actually got another banana liqueur I want to test out. And I'm going to be playing with the rum. So if you're intrigued by that, stick with me because today's video should be a bit of fun. Let's dive in. Now, before I start, I'm just going to hold up my mate Georgie Radev's recipe again because I really do think this is a great recipe. And this is probably the accessible recipe to a lot of you. So hopefully you can screenshot that if you want it. It's from this book, Let's Get Tropical. And Georgie owns a bar in London called Lackey Cane, proper tiki bar with a Thai inspiration there. It's fantastic. So I have actually done a video on that about 2 years ago on this channel. So you can go back and I'm pretty sure it's this recipe. So you go there. But what I'm going to do today is Beach Bum Berry's remix, and it's on page 56. So I'm just going to walk you through this recipe. Now, remember, as I said, this is a slush puppy style cocktail. So I've got my little NutriBullet out here. The first ingredient is 45 ml of lime juice. And I tell you now, if you're thinking that's a lot, it really isn't, because I do actually rate this recipe. Now, the next ingredient calls for blackberry brandy, which is just creme de mure, essentially. So any brandy is a fruit base or distilled spirit from fruit. So essentially, creme de mure, mure being blackberry. Now, the recipe in Beach Bum Berry, I have translated this, calls for 7/8 of an ounce, which works out to 26¼ ml. So unless you've got a graduated little measuring thing, whatever cylinder, that's the word. Unless you've got one of those, you're never going to get close to 26½ mil. What I have got there is a little end to 25, but I've got a graded one here for 20. I've got 25 in this as well, which will take me up to 30. So I'm just going to go slightly over the 25 mark in there. There we go. Then I'm doing exactly the same with my first choice banana liqueur. And just swapping jiggers slightly, I've gone to the UK one because it'll be easy to get this. The next thing is, what is this? 5/8 of an ounce of grenadine. Now, I've said time and time again that I use this pomegranate syrup as my grenadine from Monin. Grenadine is pomegranate. That's what it translates to. So that's why I use it. Now 5/8 of an ounce is 18¾ ml. So I can get as close, if I just go just slightly under the 20 ml line in here, we should be very, very close. And the final ingredient is the rum. Beach Bum Berry calls for a Caribbean. What's his actual words? 151 Caribbean rum. Now you can loosely translate that as to Cruzan, maybe. Bacardi would be another one. I just had to think now. In the UK, we don't really get those. We have got access to Don Q 151. But even though this is a slightly different style because this is St. Lucian, this is my go-to 151 rum in that kind of style. Remember, it's a very different to your Lemon Hearts, to your OFTDs. Okay, it's a lighter style of 151. Now, we're just going for 22½ mil for this. Okay, so 3/4 of an ounce. That one's nice and easy. Now, Jeff Beach Bum Berry does say fill your blender tin half full with crushed ice. So I'm going to go a little bit under in there, but I'm just going to crush ice this up, whack it on the NutriBullet and get it all like a slush puppy. There we go. Quick sort of 7-8 seconds maybe, and we've got our slush puppy style rum runner. Now I've got to say, that's not a glass I would normally serve it up in. I'm saving those for the little experiments and kind of doing this properly. And then I'll just garnish that with a sprig of mint. Now, I'll be honest, I do actually like that recipe. It's not perfect for me. For instance, in this recipe, the blackberry is quite dominant. Now, this is interesting because actually when I make this I did use this in an event a few weeks ago, and I actually used Monin's blackberry liqueur. Very similar, but obviously it wasn't, it was an event. I didn't have my slush puppy. I didn't have the youth bullet. So it would kind of a different. Now this is going to be interesting because that is blackberry forward, whereas the one I made with Monin wasn't. I don't really get the banana from this, and the balance isn't quite there. Basically what I'm hinting at is I don't think blending it does this cocktail any favour. Now, just a quick point here, because this hasn't got any purees or anything in it that I use, this is where, and I know I get comments on videos about xanthan gum, and I do have some here. You can tell it's old, it's all there. Xanthan gum, if you do that, will actually, if you just use a tiny bit in your on a bar spoon, back of a bar spoon, it will actually kind of hold that all together. But a lot of the purees I use in the UK have already got xanthan gum. That's why I never ever use it on videos really. But if you were serving that up, you can already see it's kind of separated a little bit. You might actually want a little bit of xanthan gum if you were serving that up in a glass where you could actually see through into the cocktail. Now, for the first experiment I'm going to do, I'm going to actually do a head-to-head here. I'm not going to slush puppy this up. I'm actually going to milkshake blend this up, which you could actually do if you were shaking with crushed ice as well. You could get this sort of a similar effect, but I'm getting old. I like to blend these with a milkshake blender. So we're going to do that. But I mentioned I'm going to put a banana liqueur. Now, I have a little test with the banana liqueur. Long-term viewers will know that this is the brand that I've been using for years. I think this is a phenomenal liquid. I really do. This is it's not new to me. Well, it's new to me behind the bar. It's not new to me on my radar. I have tasted this at various different bar shows and stuff like that. And it's never kind of, I don't know. And this is interesting because I actually gave this out on an event and everyone kind of preferred this. Now, I think this is, for me, I don't know whether you can see, it's quite thick and it's quite syrupy, which is along the lines of a lot of the Tempest Fugit liqueurs. You will know that if you've seen me use that, the cacao one with a hint of vanilla is actually quite thick as well. Now, this is delicious. It really is. But the way I can only describe it is that's a more of a liqueur for me, maybe to enjoy neat after like a Christmas dinner or something like that. Whereas I'm in my head, I think this is the one that I use for cocktails. This, for me, this, as I say, it's quite thick. I randomly struggle to get the banana off that, but I know a lot of people actually do get the banana off that and think it's a lot more what's the word? A lot more, I had it then, I've forgotten. A lot more authentic, there we go. A lot more authentic than what this is. But for me, this is just what I naturally associate with a banana liqueur. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make both this recipe up again, exactly the same recipe, but one's going to be, so the head-to-head is going to be flash blended versus slush puppy, but then also at the same time, we're doing a head-to-head on the two banana liqueurs. Today's video is sponsored by me. If you had a chance to download my free rum ebook yet, if not, you'll find the link below in the description of this video, or you can scan the QR code that's popping up on screen right now. My free rum ebook gets updated twice a year and is packed full of interesting information and tips of how you can enjoy rum. It also includes a few basic rum cocktail recipes, plus how to make one of my favourites. This is a dragon fruit and papaya daiquiri. So what are you waiting for? As I said, you'll find the link in the description below, or you can scan that QR code. Right, back to the video. So here we go. First, two experiments, if you like, because now we're comparing the OG, the slush puppy, which you can see has properly separated now, versus a flash blended, a milkshake blended cocktail. And then the actual second head-to-head is the banana liqueurs off. Now, I've tasted these off camera, and the difference between those two are night and day. all of a sudden, the exact same ratios, the exact same ingredients that's gone into that, just this one has merely been spindle blended, milkshake blender, is the difference is huge. That is a much better cocktail. And actually now it's more balanced. The banana is there. The mule is sort of subdued a little bit. You get a little bit of punch from that rum, but not too much. This, as I say, the blackberry is too forward for me in that, and it's just unbalanced. So that little bit of extra aeration, possibly with a little bit of extra, it's only been sitting here literally 2 minutes, 3 minutes, if that. So it's not had time to dilute too much with all that extra crushed ice in there. It's just, this cocktail is much better flash blended. Simple. As simple as that. It really is. So my first recommendation straight away is not to slush puppy that up. So I'm going to get rid of that now. That's done its job. The next head-to-head is the 2 banana liqueurs. And this, again, has blown me away because actually they are very, very different cocktails now. And actually, for me, this is what shocks me. I much prefer that. This is just superb. The banana is there, but actually more authentic. Even though for me, on tasting neat, that is the more authentic taste. In this cocktail, this is just smashes it. Perhaps it's because it gives you a little bit of extra sweetness. I don't actually know what the ABV difference is, to be fair. 26, but similar, 26 and 25. And just one thing I want to quickly add in here as well. This for me would be going your similar kind of lines. This is what I want to get across. This is a similar kind of banana vibe to your, even though it's much better, to your bowls, to your De Kuyper, to your not so posh Giffard, to your Edmund Brietet, those kind of banana liqueurs. This is completely and utterly different. This is more thicker, more unctuous. So don't compare that to bowls or De Kuyper or whatever. This is your comparison there. So what I'm saying now is this has gone from something that I don't really enjoy neat too much because it is a little bit thick and syrupy to, wow, that makes a really, really, really good rum runner. Now, the point I want to add in here is that this is not a booze rum forward cocktail. It's a booze forward cocktail because you've got your liqueurs there. You've got your blackberry liqueur, which is, I forget, 18% ABV. And you've got your 151 there. So it's a booze forward cocktail. It's not a rum forward cocktail. And the point I made at the start of the video is that perhaps it's the 151 that puts people off this. So the very last experiment, or the next experiment I'm going to do a head-to-head on 2 different rums. And the 2 rums I decided to go for are right here in front of me. First up, I went for the Chairman's Reserve Legacy, which is actually a 43% ABV rum. And then I wanted something Jamaican. So I went for Worthy Park Select, which is a lot more funkier than your Appletons, should we say that. Appleton, I don't reclass as a funky rum at all. Not in the grand scheme of things. Yes, you might think they've got a little bit of funk in them, but compared to Worthy Park, compared to Hampden, compared to Plantaray Sign Macca, they are not funky rums at all, Appleton. So I went for something funky, which I really, really love, and that's the Worthy Park Select. Now, it's just something, a point of note here. At 151, 75.5% ABV, it calls for 22.5 mil. So to get the equivalent of that at a 45 mil, it's kind of like a 37 and 3/4. Say most rums in the UK are 37.5%. So if you did a 45 mil of a 37.5%, you're almost getting the same ABV in the cocktails. So obviously, bringing these 2 up at 40% ABV and 43% ABV, obviously, even though we're adding 45 mil, we are making the cocktail ever so slightly stronger. Okay? I hope you kind of grasp that fact. So, question time. Before I dive into what I kind of went here, what rums would you have chosen to kind of swap this up and to play about with? Where would your head have gone with that? Would it have gone Demerara and El Dorado rum, for example? Would you have even gone Don Q or something like that? Now, let me know in the comments below. The whole reason I haven't done Don Q or Bacardi or anything like that is because ultimately they're going to create a very similar vibe to what this is. you know, it's that similar style of rum. So I wanted to change up the style of rums. I didn't necessarily want to go for a black dark rum like the Worthy 109, for instance. That would make a nice cocktail, but not where I want the cocktail to go. So this is why I've chosen. Now, the Chairman's Reserve Legacy is kind of, it's not a Demerara rum, but it's kind of what I use in there because I do prefer it to the El Dorado rums in that sort of sense. It's similar, it's different, but it's similar. And that is a very, very, very good cocktail. For me, it depends what you want. I was going to say, I actually still prefer that. At 22.5%, I prefer, at 22.5 mil, I prefer the 151 over the Chairman's Legacy. It's almost become a bit too rich for me. However, this Jamaican rum is absolutely smashing it out the park. Now, remember my whole ethos. I don't want to go like too funk heavy. I'm all about mass market. And I appreciate that stuff like Hamden 8, you know, even to a certain extent, Plantations, Imaca and stuff like that are going to be too funk forward for mass market cocktails. This isn't. This absolutely smashes it out the park. For me now, whenever I make the Rum Runner, it is going to be with that Worthy Part Select. Exactly the same ratios. The Tempest Fugit Banana Liqueur. Basically just 45 mil instead of 22.5 mil. The recipe that I've just done will be in the description below. But this is flipping fantastic. It is such an infinitely better cocktail than the very first one we made. You can see how much that's melted now back in. Honestly, that I urge you all to try that. I would urge you to do an experiment yourself. Actually, go with maybe like a Don Q or a Bacardi, something like that. But then compare it to a Jamaican rum. Not heavily. Hamden 8 might, for you rum lovers, Hamden 8 probably would be up your wavelength. But for mass market, perhaps not. But I'm pretty convinced that if I put this on a cocktail menu, I'm pretty convinced that the majority of people are going to absolutely love this. This is really, really good. So for those of you that are still watching, in the comments below, if you haven't commented about the rums, if you don't know what rums you'd use, just give me a simple thumbs up in the comments, thumbs up emoji. Give me a thumbs up if you were going to try this cocktail now. Give me a thumbs down or an angry face or whatever if you're not going to try this cocktail. If the Rum Runner's not for you, that's absolutely fine. But it's really for me. I love this. This is brag up my street.